Now to the cackling witch herself, Joy Behar from The View, whose jealousy is something to behold. Here is her assessment of Trump's new White House press secretary.
Karoline Leavitt is the press secretary at the White House, doing a great job. Such a great job that the ladies of The View feel the green monster coming upon them.
Ever-empowering feminist, Joy herself, everyone. And this is why, of course, she's on The View and not working for the most powerful man in the world.
Communicator. And so Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the role.
Is this the beginning of the end for The View? The hosts who built their brand on empowering women are now facing serious consequences after belittling the youngest White House press secretary in history, simply because of her political affiliation. Sources inside ABC reveal the hosts are panicking as Karoline Leavitt's defamation lawsuit moves forward. The network executives are scrambling, legal teams are working overtime, and the tension between co-hosts has reached a breaking point. Here's what's really happening behind those forced apologies. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. What started as a routine segment on The View quickly spiraled into one of the show's biggest controversies. When Karoline Leavitt stepped up to the podium for her first White House press briefing, she wasn't just handling questions, she was making history as one of the youngest people ever to serve in that role. But instead of focusing on this achievement, The View host took a very different approach.
Now to the chief loon herself. Come on, it wouldn't be a lefties losing it without MSNBC's Joy Reid and the fear this woman must have. Here she is comparing Donald Trump's administration.
Defending Karoline Leavitt here. She realizes Joy Behar has gone a little too far. What's Behar saying? She only got that job because she's hot.
It must be such a drain on poor Joy. Every day flying the fake flag, saying the same lines over and over. It's like she must remain outraged at all times.
She got the job because she was the national spokesman for the campaign, and she did a very good job in that role. And the campaign was hugely successful and communicated very effectively.
Joy Behar couldn't resist reducing Leavitt to her appearance with that now infamous "she's a 10" comment, completely dismissing her qualifications and experience. But Behar wasn't alone. Whoopi Goldberg jumped in with her own controversial take, suggesting that Leavitt wouldn't even have the job without wokeness, a comment that particularly infuriated viewers who saw it as diminishing Leavitt's hard work and credentials. Here's where things get really interesting. Behind the scenes, The View's producers initially shrugged off these comments as standard political criticism. They genuinely believed this would blow over like any other day's worth of political banter. Talk about a massive miscalculation. What the producers failed to recognize was the glaring double standard they just put on display. The hypocrisy was impossible to ignore. For years, The View hosts had positioned themselves as champions of women's empowerment, regularly defending young female professionals from appearance-based criticism and demanding respect for women in the workplace. Yet here they were, doing exactly what they claimed to stand against, and to a woman who had broken barriers in politics no less. The public wasn't having it. Within hours of the segment airing, social media exploded with outrage. Hashtags demanding accountability for Behar and Goldberg started trending nationwide. Viewers weren't just upset, they were furious at what they saw as a blatant attack on a young professional woman simply because she worked for a Republican administration. How did ABC respond to this growing firestorm? With silence and dismissal, a strategy that only threw gasoline on an already raging fire. The network's refusal to acknowledge the situation immediately only convinced viewers that The View believed it was above accountability, further fueling the outrage across social media platforms. The backlash wasn't just coming from conservative circles either. Women from across the political spectrum recognized the unfair treatment and called it out. What The View hosts had done was reduce a historic achievement to appearance and suggest that Leavitt hadn't earned her position, the exact kind of sexist commentary the show had previously condemned when directed at other women. As days passed, network executives finally began to grasp the severity of the situation. This wasn't just another 24-hour Twitter storm that would disappear. The controversy was growing, viewers were canceling, and sponsors were getting nervous. What started as dismissive comments had evolved into a full-blown crisis for the network. That crisis turned into corporate panic when Karoline Leavitt's attorneys delivered what one ABC ABC insider called the lawsuit from hell. Behind closed doors, the network that had been publicly dismissing the controversy was frantically calculating just how many millions this PR disaster might actually cost them, and whether an on-air apology would be enough to make it all go away. The legal papers landed at ABC headquarters like a bomb. Executives who had been casually referring to the situation as just another Twitter storm suddenly found themselves staring at a defamation lawsuit that legal experts immediately assessed as having genuine merit. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through the world of daytime television, leaving The View's future hanging in the balance. Blindsided is how insiders described the executive team's reaction to the lawsuit's unexpected strength. Leavitt's legal team had meticulously documented the harm caused by the host's comments, presenting a case that legal experts suggested could hold significant weight in court. The lawsuit didn't just target the specific remarks, but framed them as part of a broader pattern of dismissive behavior toward conservative women, a characterization that threatened ABC's carefully cultivated image. Within hours, emergency meetings filled the calendar blocks of every senior executive at the network. The View's producers and ABC's crisis management team immediately clashed over how to handle the situation. While producers fought to protect their hosts from any public admission of wrongdoing, the crisis team pushed for immediate damage control before the situation spiraled further. The network's internal polling painted a grim picture. Viewer sentiment toward The View had collapsed dramatically within just 48 hours of the controversy erupting. This wasn't just Twitter noise. Real viewers were turning against the show, and sponsors were noticing. Behind closed doors, ABC's legal department was already drafting multiple settlement scenarios, with potential payouts ranging anywhere from $2 million to a staggering $8 million. As pressure mounted, network executives delivered an ultimatum to the hosts that would have been unthinkable just days earlier: issue an on-air apology or face potential suspension from the show. The message was clear. This wasn't going away with a casual dismissal or deflection. Frantic phone calls flew between network headquarters, producers, and the hosts' representatives. Text messages obtained from network sources reveal the growing desperation. "We need something tomorrow. Legal says we're exposed." Another message from a senior producer read, "She won't read it as written. Says it admits guilt." The frantic negotiations behind the scenes culminated in what viewers would soon witness: one of the most uncomfortable apologies in daytime television history. As the red light on the camera flickered on that fateful morning, the View hosts walked onto their set with scripts they hadn't written and apologies they didn't believe in. What America saw wasn't just damage control, it was a masterclass in body language betrayal. It was like watching hostages read statements, noted Dr. Lillian Carter, a renowned body language expert who analyzed the segment frame by frame. Their shoulders were hunched forward in a protective stance, their smiles never reached their eyes, and there was visible tension in their necks and jaws, classic signs of insincerity. The apology itself had gone through no fewer than 17 drafts, according to production sources. What started as a brief acknowledgement evolved into a carefully crafted legal shield, with ABC attorneys rejecting anything that admitted explicit wrongdoing. The final script was a masterpiece of non-apology apologies. "We regret if our comments were perceived as hurtful," rather than "we were wrong to say those things." The teleprompter held several last-minute changes that caught the hosts off guard. One producer, speaking anonymously, revealed that certain phrases had been inserted just minutes before broadcast. You could see the momentary confusion in their eyes when they hit those new lines. They hadn't agreed to that specific wording. Most telling was the physical distance between the hosts themselves. Whoopi positioned herself slightly turned away from Joy, a subtle but unmistakable message of separation. During the 30-second apology, she glanced at her co-host only once, and briefly at that. Industry insiders noticed immediately. "That tableau spoke volumes," said former daytime producer Marion Walters. "In television, proximity equals solidarity. When hosts physically distance themselves on camera, it's the equivalent of saying, 'I'm not with her,' without saying a word." Social media erupted within seconds. One viral tweet captured the sentiment: "Watching Joy Behar apologize while her eyes scream, 'I'm being forced to do this,' is the most uncomfortable television moment since the Oscar slap." Within an hour, the clip had been viewed over 2 million times, with body language compilation videos popping up across platforms. The awkwardness reached its peak when immediately after completing the scripted apology, Sunny Hostin attempted to pivot to their next segment about summer fashion trends. The tonal whiplash was so severe that even seasoned viewers noticed the discomfort. "You could cut the tension with a knife," one longtime fan commented. They couldn't wait to change the subject. That awkward pivot to summer fashion wasn't just covering up on-air tension, it was desperately trying to mask the volcano about to erupt backstage. The moment the cameras stopped rolling, trolling, Joy Behar allegedly ripped off her microphone pack and hurled it across the green room, sending staffers scrambling. It was like a bomb went off, revealed one production assistant who witnessed the meltdown. She was red-faced, screaming that this was politically motivated bull use and that she wouldn't be muzzled by right-wing pressure. What? The backstage area has transformed into a war zone with battle lines clearly drawn. On one side stand staffers who believe the apology was necessary damage control. On the other, those who feel the show compromised its principles. There are people who won't even eat lunch together anymore, confided a longtime crew member. It's Team Joy versus Team Accountability, and nobody wants to be caught fraternizing with the enemy. What's particularly revealing is Joy's private stance on the whole controversy. In production meetings, she's reportedly remained defiant, repeatedly telling executives, "I was just stating facts about a Trump appointee." Since when do we apologize for that? According to 3 separate sources, during one particularly heated exchange, Joy pounded the table and declared, "I've been doing this for decades. I know what our audience wants to hear." Meanwhile, the rift between the co-hosts has become impossible to ignore. Whoopi Goldberg has been strategically distancing herself from Joy, both physically and professionally. Whoopi told producers point blank, "This isn't my mess to clean up," shared a production coordinator who overheard the conversation. She's been taking separate cars to events and requesting her dressing room be moved further from Joy's. The atmosphere behind the scenes has deteriorated to unprecedented levels. "I've worked here for 11 years, and I've never seen it this bad," admitted one stage manager. "It's like walking on eggshells coated with landmines. One wrong word, and someone's either crying or screaming." Another staff member described coming to work as showing up for a daily hostage situation where everyone's a potential kidnapper. Network executives have installed what insiders call content babysitters, representatives from ABC's legal department who now monitor every segment, requiring script approval for any political discussions. "We used to have creative freedom, now we need 3 signatures just to mention a senator's name," lamented one writer. "The control has become so tight that teleprompters reportedly include color-coded warnings about topics that are temporarily off-limit." The most telling indication of Joy's true feelings came during a closed-door meeting with senior producers. According to someone present, she looked around the room and said with complete conviction, "I'm just saying what everyone already thinks. The only difference is I have the courage to say it on television." While Joy Behar believes she's brave for attacking a young professional on national television, Karoline Leavitt is silently executing a masterclass in crisis management that's transforming her career trajectory overnight. Instead of responding with angry tweets or emotional press conferences, Leavitt has maintained remarkable composure throughout this entire ordeal, and that strategic restraint is paying enormous dividends. Behind the scenes, Leavitt isn't sitting idle. Sources reveal she's quietly assembling a team of legal and media advisors to craft her response with surgical precision. While the View hosts scramble to contain their self-inflicted damage, Leavitt is methodically positioning herself as the composed professional who refuses to stoop to personal attack. The contrast couldn't be more striking, as the View's credibility plummets with key demographics, particularly among young professional women. Leavitt's stock is soaring. Her confident performance during her first White House press briefing already caught attention, but this controversy has catapulted her into a political lightning rod, exactly the kind of national spotlight that can launch careers to new heights. She's more accomplished at 27 than most people in their entire lives, reads one viral social media comment that's been shared thousands of times. This sentiment reflects the groundswell of support rallying behind Leavitt, coming not just from expected conservative circles, but from women across the political spectrum who recognize the double standard at play. Media training experts are already studying Leavitt's response as the textbook example of how to handle a high-profile attack. By maintaining dignity while letting her legal team aggressively pursue the defamation case, she's struck the perfect balance between strength and professionalism. Legal experts suggest her claims could indeed hold significant weight in court, potentially resulting in substantial financial penalties for The View and its networks. What's particularly fascinating is how Leavitt has leveraged this controversy to highlight the very qualifications and accomplishments that The View hosts dismissed. The network that tried to diminish her has inadvertently handed her the biggest platform of her career. The young press secretary is no longer just known for her White House role. She's becoming a symbol for young professionals who feel underrepresented in mainstream discourse. Industry insiders report that major media outlets and publishers are already approaching Leavitt with opportunities that would dramatically expand her platform. There are even whispers that she might launch her own media initiative, capitalizing on her newfound influence in both political and media circles. This controversy has accomplished what might have otherwise taken years of career building, transforming Leavitt from a relatively unknown political staffer to a household name with serious potential beyond her current White House role. The View hosts, meanwhile, are trapped in damage control mode, unable to escape the controversy they created. Beyond the apology and the drama, what we're really seeing is the slow unraveling of one of daytime TV's most recognized brands. The View's ratings have been on a downward trajectory for some time now, and this controversy couldn't have come at a worse moment. Industry insiders are whispering that the show's standing is at serious risk, with declining viewership only accelerated by the Leavitt debacle. The real question is whether ABC will stick with a formula that's clearly showing its age. Can The View survive with hosts who've become more liability than asset? Or is it time for a complete overhaul with fresh faces who actually embody the values the show claims to represent? This controversy has pulled back the curtain on the hypocrisy that's been festering beneath the surface for years. Shows that claim to champion all women while simultaneously tearing down those with different political views are finally being called out. So what do you think? Is this the beginning of the end for The View, or will they weather this storm like they have others? Are the hosts getting what they deserve, or is this all being blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this developing story.